It's not Saturday. It's Thursday. Well, technically it's Monday. But for you guys that are seeing this video, it's Thursday, which for some people in this world is Thanksgiving. At least for me and the people in North America, for most of us, it is Thanksgiving. You guys in other parts of the world, you guys just get an extra bonus teardown this week. Because I decided, after thinking about it, that one of the things I'm most thankful for is you all. The camaraderie, other people in the industry, other car people, other people that have the same likes and dislikes that I do and like to talk to their engines and say dumb things as you pull them apart. We're all in this together. So I guess this is my big thank you for Thanksgiving. We're going to do another teardown. That doesn't mean we're not going to have one in 2 days. There will be another one, I promise. But today we're going to tear down an easy one, nice, short, and sweet, and an engine that many people have been asking for, a Hyundai or Kia Theta II 2.4 liter 4-cylinder that comes in everything. This is in the Sonata, the Tucson, the Sportage, the Optima. I could keep going and going, but the internet knows what this comes in. And these engines have a pretty jaded history. A lot of people have had engine problems. I think there's a class action lawsuit on them. Whoever had this one, big problems. Much bigger problems than they wish they had. So this is the good side. And I say that because the other side, I think, is worse. You do have a little bit of shrapnel. It was included with the engine. It's nice that I can put it back together. So obviously something inside wanted to make an exit and left us with an inspection hole. But the other side, that's where the fun is. So this side, that's where the fun is. It has multiple holes, lots of crankcase ventilation. It looks like the block is almost totally broken. This piece is almost removed. And then we got an ancillary hole, an extra hole there, just in case this one doesn't work out. We've got one right there. So clearly, this engine suffered a catastrophic failure, which is apparently what they're known for. Now, this particular engine came out of a 2013 Hyundai Sonata with about 140,000 miles on them. I have seen them go double that with no trouble. I've also seen them bad at 40 and 50,000 miles. If you look on Facebook Marketplace or at the auction, it's not hard to find these cars that need engines. There's a lot more demand than there is supply. That's why these engines are very expensive, and I think it's even hard to get them from the dealer. There's a back order on these things, which would explain why the used engines are so valuable. So we're going to tear this one down. We're going to see just how bad this is. The very first thing we're going to do, since there is no crank bolt, we're going to remove the ignition coils to get to the plugs. Well, they look better than I thought they'd look. Nothing's bent. Nothing's been mechanically regapped by flying shrapnel. I still think we're going to see malice in the combustion palace. Now we can tear this valve cover off. Let's see, we should be able to get this off pretty easily, I think. Oh, you know what? It helps when you get all the bolts out. That's just my experience. That feels a lot more like it. So there's a little bit of play here, but I think it's because I just pushed on this and I could hear the hydraulic tensioner squirting oil backwards, or maybe there's a problem with it. I don't know what the timing system looks like until we get this apart. The rest of this doesn't look too bad. Cams look pretty nice. Not a ton of wear on the lobes. I don't see any real cause for concern yet. There's not a lot to see, but I don't see like huge piles of metal everywhere in here. Nothing like the last engine we tore down. Before we get too carried away, let's look at these intake valves. So it doesn't look too bad. I don't really see any major problems there. I can't really see anything wrong there. And those are open, but the cam lobes are pointed in the right direction, so I don't really see any problems. And it's really hard to see the exhaust valves in this engine. But I don't see anything jumping out at me. Next, we're going to take this timing cover. We'll start with this motor mount bracket. Get a few of these bolts out. I think that's all the 10s. Now some 12s. I do need to get the pan bolts out too. Looks like I need to take this bracket out. We'll do that next. Oh, well that was a lot easier than I thought. All right, now the timing cover is ready to come off. Let's place the pry right here. And we're off. Looks pretty normal, average. A little bit of varnish, more than I usually like to see, but not terrible. So this actually looks pretty decent in here. I really expected to find lots of metal shavings, deposits from bearings coming apart. Obviously, it's got holes in the block. We don't know why yet, but there's no indicators on this end of the engine that anything is wrong. Unless I just miss it, this all looks pretty good. Now it's time to rip the timing system off. We're going to start with the tensioner that seems most logical. Drain a little oil. I can tell that there is still some oil in this thing, so we will need to drain it. Tensioner looks fine. Missed the scrapping. This guide is pretty nice. It looks good, just a little bit of wear, nothing's coming apart, nothing's broken. It's nice. This is still under a little, nope, no tension. We're good. Yeah, this looks excellent. It looks like it's the original. I can see a date stamp. Yeah, it's nice. Now let's see if we can get this chain off. Look how easy that was. Pretty decent chain. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Now I was looking at this engine and it looks like I could in fact remove the head bolts. Nope, I can't. Well, yes, I could. If I turn the cams in a certain position, I think I can get the head bolts out. But that's not what we do here. We don't take things off and not take them apart. So we're going to take the cams out and then we'll get the head bolts out to pull the head. But first, I'm going to clean up the area, my work area, by removing some engine hooks. Now it's time to cram these caps off. That's not a good sign. They got some fizz. It looks like milk was in there. I don't think that's milk. If it was, that was a very bad choice. Let's see if these do the same thing here. Look at that. That's just bizarre.
It's borderline inappropriate.
Well, this has a cam bearing on just this journal, and the rest of this doesn't look too bad. The journals look nice, the oil is clean of debris. There's just a little bit of wear on the coating on these buckets. It's not awful. I don't know if it's actually a problem or not. And it's pretty uniform across the engine. The bearing looks nice. The rest of these journals, pretty good. A little bit of wear there is really not bad. Not what I expected out of this engine. Camshafts look pretty decent too. There is a little bit of notable wear on the tips of the lobes. It's pretty uniform across these camshafts. A little bit of wear to the journal. It's not terrible. It's not perfect. Even the oil coming out of it looks pretty clean. It does look like I need to remove this bearing to have access to the head bolt without putting my socket at an angle. All right, we're going to tilt this thing over just a little bit more to make the head bolts a little easier. I hear stuff moving. I think there's some junk in the sump. Time for the head bolts. Oh. It's like a wind up and a smack. And every time it pops, I can hear stuff moving in the pan. You gotta watch this pop slow-mo. Now, let's zip these out. All right, let's see how easy this is to take off. Pretty sure there's nothing else holding this head on. Should just lift right off. Oh yeah. Huh. This arrangement doesn't bode well to a running engine. There's definitely some marks, some deep marks on that piston. Here's what the head looks like. You can definitely tell this one was struck by piston. There's some marks on the edge of the valves. These two cylinders look okay. So cylinder 1, it's not really too bad. There's like a little haze. It's kind of rust colored, but it's not terrible. I would clean up. Cylinder 2, there's a little bit of vertical wear. We really can't see the entire bore. Cylinder 3 has clear impact marks from valves. You know, even looks like the piston probably made contact. This looks like it's just carbon. Wow. Lots of carbon. Holy crap. And this one looks okay. But you know what? Of any engine that we've done recently, this is the one that we need to do our scientific test. Okay, cylinder 1. Good. Cylinder 2. Also good. Cylinder 3. Very adjustable. That one's broken. Cylinder 4. Feels good. So maybe it's just one. Now it's time to drain the oil pan. We're going to take this off and then we'll rotate it to where it's pointed straight down. Okay, so at least it's mostly drained. Let's see what comes out. Ah, there's some oil. It doesn't look bad. It's not chunky or sparkly. It looks just like oil. How does that get in there? While this thing is draining, I'm going to remove this water pump housing and this pipe. I'm really sorry that there's not a water pump to abuse in this video. You know, I know it's just not a teardown video without a water pump skit. So you know what? I'm going to use an oldie but a goodie from one of my past videos, not the water pump from this engine. Definitely something I'd want to hang on to. We're going to put you somewhere safe, buddy. Just hang tight. You're going to be just fine. So I'm going to unbolt the pan in this position because I don't want to fish a bunch of broken parts out of the engine. I think it'll be cleaner this way. Got two weird bolts over here, 12 points. It's pretty scary. There's nothing holding that pan up but sealant. Let's see, does this come off pretty easy? No, that wasn't going anywhere. It will now. It's really not, I mean, it's not good. It's certainly not good. Let's pour this oil out. There's definitely some debris, but it's certainly not the party basket I was hoping for. Oh, I see there's clues in here. So this is what's in the pan. We have aluminum, I really can't identify any of this, but if you look closely, there's a lot of copper in here. That's not gold, unfortunately. It's a whole lot of copper looking stuff, unless that's just the way the oil makes it look. No, I'm pretty sure that's copper, like it's from bearings. But hey, here's an identifiable piece. That's a rod, or part of one. And there's another piece. Rod. No rings, no valves, no wrist pins. I feel like I got taken. I was promised some piston nuggets, and I don't see any. All right, let's see what the bottom of this thing looks like. It's broken badly. So there's clearly been a problem in this area. This is the scene of the wreckage. You see all those fresh marks on the bottom of this balanced cartridge. This has also got the oil pump built in. And then there's some pretty deep cracks. Oh yeah, there's definitely some ungood things on the inside of this engine. But the rest of this doesn't look too bad. So I think what we're going to do now is pull this piece off and we'll take it apart, because that's what we should do. First we'll get this tensioner off for this chain. It's in pretty good shape. Perfect. That looks good. Yeah, all this is practically brand new. Now, is this enough to get this off? That'll come off, no problem. This is going to be a fun one. So I've got this. It's got the special socket, and I think I have that. Well, it's not special. It's just an E22. Interesting. Let's get the air. Here, now we can get this chain off. I'll just set this back on here. All right, more out of curiosity than anything else. It will not spin faster than... There we go. Oh, my impact did not enjoy that. It's fine. All right, now we'll zip this thing off. I think that's all of them. So now you can get a little bit better idea of the damage with that out of the way. You can see still a big end of a rod there. Screen on this looks pretty clean. Let's flip this over. Definitely has some damage from flailing rod bits. But the rest of this looks pretty okay. Oh, it's leaking. We're going to make a mess. We're going to take this apart. First, we'll get this off. Oops, I think it goes this way. Nope, it goes this way. Oh, we're just going to have to give this one a little help. Wow. He's torque to yield? All right, we'll do that the hard way. We'll just tip it up. Okay, all the bolts are out of it. Now what? Well, I have this hammer here. We'll try. I don't know what I'm doing. What if we try
violence?
I think it's coming apart now. Hey, look at that. It's just very tight tolerances. We got some pretty cool pieces in here, though. Oh wait, I think I see what's going on here. I think this needs to come out, and I think there's one more bolt in this. Yeah. Watch, it just falls apart now. Well, it's much easier when the bolts are out. Oh, it's got little bearings in here. This is kind of cool. There's the oil pump. All this stuff looks like it's in pretty good shape, aside from the fact that some crazy guy just beat on it with a hammer when the bolt was still in it. Now this comes apart somehow in some way. Oh. It has two oil pumps? Or, I don't know how any of that works. I also don't know how this comes apart. It looks like this is all pressed together. So there's a lot of pieces here. But everything seems to be in pretty good shape. I mean, it's not worth anything because of this. I didn't destroy any value here, guys, I promise. But it's pretty neat to see how it's put together and how it's built. It's got these cool little balance shafts. And at the end of each one, it had an oil pump. And these both look like they're in pretty good shape. I don't see any major wear. I can't really take this apart any further. I don't know how that goes together. It must be pressed on. I think that gear there is pressed on. But it's still pretty neat nonetheless. Next, we'll get the oil filter off. That wasn't too tight. And it's missing the pan completely. We'll get this cut open a little bit later. While we're here, oil filter. Now I think is a good time to get this dipstick tube out of the way. I'm really hoping that this just pops right out. Ah, yeah. Now it's time to remove the upper oil pan. And that should be all of the bolts. Now I just need blue, and this should just pop right off. Oh, there's the offending rod. Yes. Bottom side of the pan, big damage. So everything at the front looks pretty decent. It looks good until you get to right here. Obviously, this had a lot of heat in it if you look at the color of the crankshaft. This is, oh, it does move a little bit. Oh, hey, I fixed it. And then there's just some random pieces of shrapnel. You can definitely tell there's some giant holes in the block. We knew that already. And there's actually a little bitty one over here. So I'd be interested to see what that rod looks like. So I think the first thing I'm going to do, since I can get to all of them, I'm going to unbolt all the rod caps. And then we're going to do the main caps, pull the crank out, and then I'll drive what's left of the rods and pistons out. Let's get these cracked loose. All right, now this crank should hopefully lift right out. Well, this part all looks pretty good except for that hole there. Let's cover that up with some ramen noodles. This is where most of the action happened. As you can see, there's not much rod left. It split the piston squirter. Lots of block damage. I don't know what finally stopped this engine from running, but clearly it ran well enough on the 3 to do this much damage on this 1. And this cylinder looks okay. So we're going to knock this all out and see what this looks like. See how easy these are to get out of the bore. Not too bad. This one isn't as simple. Stubby. All right, now we have this one journal to get off. It moves somewhat freely. I don't think this is going to be enough to get it off, but we're going to attempt. Will this fit on here? No, we're going to have to hit it with a hammer. This bolt is just marred up too. I think we can do this. I don't know. It's a definite I don't know. It's sure coming out okay.
Not.
Okay. So that was going to be the harder of the two, but this one might be just as difficult. I think we're seated here. Ah. So we have some issues, but nothing that we can't solve with a hammer. Oh, well. Boy, do we have some things to talk about. First, let's look at the condition of the good bearings. They are heavily worn, not gouged up like it was starved of oil, but worn. And look how thin they are. Cylinder 2, same story, lots of copper showing. Cylinder 3, these were spun on top of each other. This was the offending cylinder. Look how paper thin they are. I'm really amazed that the big end of the rod didn't come apart. And back to cylinder 4, much like 1 and 2. It's not gouged like it had debris run through it, and it doesn't look like they were dry. It looks like an engine that has 350,000 miles on it, but nope. Now, the rods and pistons look okay. At least 3 of them look okay. This one has a couple marks on it on the bottom, and then right there, the rod looks like it assisted part of its neighbor outside. This rod is incomplete. This is the one that did all the damage. It still moves nice on the wrist pin. Top of the piston, not a ton of damage, just some valve marks because it traveled too far and hit the cylinder head. But really, I expected more damage for the amount of damage to the outside of the block. The piston held together quite nice. It does look like those oil rings are kind of gunked up. They're not as bad as we've seen, and all the compression rings are pretty free. This one had chunks of rod and block jammed up in here. Impressive. The main bearings, beautiful. Now, if this thing was starved of oil or run low repeatedly, we would see damage here. The crankshaft looks great until it doesn't, which is right about here. This is the one, you can definitely tell the coloration difference between cylinder 2 and cylinder 3. A lot of friction, a lot of heat, cooks that cast. Crankshaft is bound for the scrap bin. And here's a better look at the block. There is not one thing that's in a line with the rod that survived. It is pretty impressive. I think part of cylinder 3's rod ventured over to cylinder 2. It was an unwanted guest. Out you go. The bores really don't look too bad. This is the worst one. That's the cylinder that blew up. Didn't really even have time to destroy this one. The bores look pretty decent. That poor knock sensor. That thing must have been working overtime. So there's the filter oil. The oil that came out of the filter. That's what I meant to say. Sparkles. And I know it's hard to see, but each one of these pleats is just packed at the bottom with bearing material. You can see some of it right there. Filter did a pretty good job filtrating the metal and holding onto it. Sadly, this is a pretty common occurrence amongst Theta II powered vehicles. There's a reason these engines are $2,500, $3,500 and on almost indefinite back order. It's a real shame too, because I think these are very good cars with not very good engines. I know a lot of people think that the Korean cars are cheap, throwaway, disposable cars, but they're very simple, they're very easy to work on. They remind me a lot of 90s Japanese cars, at least with their build philosophy. Now these engines, I've heard multiple things as to what causes this. I've heard that there was debris left in the casting when they were made. I've heard that it's going too far on oil changes, it's improper torque specs on parts. I personally think that the rod bearings are too small. The journal size is too small. Maybe the diameter could be larger. It could be something else. I could be completely off base here. I don't really do a ton of Hyundais and Kias because once you sell the engine, there's not a lot else that's worth a bunch of money. And I try to go for that high part content parts car here at Import Apart. But if you'd like to buy any of the parts out of this engine, the rods or pistons for your desk or anything that might have survived like the timing cover, I'm going to leave our email in the video description. You can also go to importapart.com and peruse our inventory. I've been updating our parts cars just about every single week. I really hope you enjoyed this bonus midweek teardown. Yes, there will be one in just a couple of days. I hope you all have a good Thanksgiving for those of you that celebrate that. And as always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one.